What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome. Welcome to Tuesday night Dynasty Points. Thought I wasn't going to be here. Psych. I made it anyway, despite probably my best interest and everyone else's. Regardless, we're here. We have a great show tonight. Scott Barrett is back after we have called him out on every media possible to come back to discuss. Well, we'll talk about what we're going to discuss here. Scott, welcome. Thank you. Always a pleasure. I know you've worked tirelessly this time of year on rankings and Exodias and everything else, but you still find time for us here, and the people love you for it.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Happy to be here. This is the best Dynasty show on the planet, and I'm just tickled pink to be a guest. This is what an honor. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
And the only unfortunate thing today is that we all thought Tom wasn't going to be here, so we basically just abandoned the concept of it being a Dynasty show to talk about your redraft rankings. And then Tom was here, and he looked at the show sheet, and he was like, "Guys, like, how is this a Dynasty show?" And we were like, yeah, it's not. But if you think about it, is there anything more important to Dynasty than how players are going to do in the 2025 NFL season? I'd say no.
It's true. You're not wrong.
That's very lawyerly of you. That's the perfect rebuttal. There you go. I didn't even think of that. You're right. This isn't Dynasty, but no. In a sense it is, because now you're going to know, like, if I'm super anti this player, he's going to have a bad year. Maybe you can get him cheaper 12 months from now.
Oh, for sure. But before we dive into news and everything else, Scott, we've started to really dive into our own comments, because some of them are just absolutely can't miss. If you want your comments potentially read on the show, you got to leave them when the show is done on YouTube and or Spotify. We have 4 this week. We're going to get to them quick. On this week's Dynasty Points, the comment review, which you guys have just been on fire. Bobble, who's had bangers on this show 3 weeks in a row. Jacob 100% has a Hobbs joke in his Tinder profile and gets annoyed when people don't reference it. So they appreciated that. We have.
I don't even know how I would have a Hobbs joke in my Tinder profile. First of all, I'm banned for life off of Tinder because I was using it to campaign for a student union election, which is against their terms of service.
No,
but
it's because you had like really cheesy pickup lines. Admit it.
But yeah, like, I don't know what I would be. Like, I don't know how I would do Tinder in Hobbesian fashion. Like, I don't think it would be good to like call myself the Leviathan. I wouldn't want to like refer to myself as brutish and short in my
This is Thomas Hobbs. We're not talking about Calvin Hobbs.
Definitely
No.
Thomas Hobbs.
Definitely Thomas Hobbs. Odin X13 by 56 is an oddly specific name. I hear him say he's going to be efficient. Immediately look at the length of the video. They were not efficient. Well, joke's on you. Tonight, we have to be. Tippy
We're
Bite.
the Najee Harris of podcasts.
Yeah. At Tippy Bite on Spotify says, Lucas sure spent a lot of time trying to diffuse the Devi allegations all show just to prove them right with his 5 for 5 clues. You're never going to get rid of that. And then one more for Spotify, just because I loved it. B. Brian says, just listen to this episode. The only way I'm drafting Najee now is if he starts walking around with the parrot on his shoulder. You guys want your comments read. We love them. We need them. So please drop them on the YouTube comments when the show is done. Drop them on Spotify when it's uploaded. With that being said, I say we dive right in. Jacob, first question on the board. Let's get into it.
Oh, I'm doing questions.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, you got it.
Every time that Ryan writes a show sheet, Tom is always like, Jacob probably wrote the show sheet. He'll talk about the question.
Yeah, immediately send to Jacob. But you can do it, Jacob. I know you can
Tyjae
read.
Spears
Jacob
has a
can
high
read.
ankle sprain. How much more desirable of a contender buy does that make Tony Pollard?
That's for you,
Ryan,
Scott.
I asked it, which means you have to now answer it. Or
Oh,
Scott.
damn. I have
He's
the
on
answer.
mute.
I thought Scott. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Scott's on
We
mute,
can get-
so he's not really.
What a tight show we got going here.
We're
so
all- you can start.
I'll just talk about Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears for a second while Scott figures that out. But
sorry.
Yeah, so
you want me to just riff? What's going
Now
on?
we can
yeah,
hear you.
go
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. Is this from a dynasty perspective or a redraft perspective?
Really, whatever perspective you want.
So from a dynasty
perspective,
I appreciate that. From a dynasty perspective, I don't see it really moving the needle outside of further confirmation. This guy might just be injury prone. You do get a nice little bump throughout the first few weeks of the season, but I'm good friends with who I think is the best Titans beat writer in the game. I think Brian Callahan thinks he's the best beat writer in the game as well. That's Easton Freeze, and we've been talking quite a bit about Tony Pollard, and Ryan's seen the text messages. I think it's just, he's a committee back. Do you view him as a committee back, assuming everyone stays healthy? This is like a 60-40 split in his favor. Maybe the efficiency goes up. You take a little off of his plate. But to me, I just don't see Tony Pollard being a difference maker, even if, now multiple seasons removed from a brutal injury, the efficiency does come up. To me, he's like a mid-range RB2, when Tyjae is healthy. And it's not really something that gets me all that excited, but it is, a valuable depth piece. So you have that. But this is one of the players Ryan and I have sort of debated. And was this on the list of players we were supposed to debate, or is this a different segment?
No, this is the news segment, Scott.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
thanks for reviewing our show sheet so carefully.
Yeah. Well, so
this is me working in players wanted to argue about into the news segment so that we could pretend we had multiple different segments to put on put on the screen. That's what this
got
is.
It. Okay.
Peek
Awesome.
behind the curtain is what that is.
Scott, you see, we have to do this thing called ad breaks. So we have to add segments so that we can do ad breaks. So we're going to talk about news, and then we're going to go to an ad. That was one. Let's try to do better on the second one.
I'm
Hall,
scrolling up right now trying to find this show sheet. I'm sure it exists.
Wait, actually, can I just say one thing on Tyjae Spears? I love the.
Yes, yeah.
I love everything here that we're just assuming. Everything is based on, yes, if Tyjae Spears is healthy, it's a 60-40 split. When has Tyjae Spears ever been healthy in his career in the last year and a half? He's currently not healthy, has a high ankle sprain. He was not healthy the entirety of last season. Even when he wasn't on the injury report, he was just weirdly limited for a week or two after he was supposedly back. And then he would pick up another injury. And it ends with Tony Pollard being at like a 75% backfield XFP share inevitably. And why is the same thing not just going to happen this year? And because it's kind of already happening.
Yeah, I think it matters. I mean, Pollard as a dynasty buy is whatever. Although I do think he's a nice cheap value. I think it's the big thing is, I always do the running back usage stuff week to week. And there is no other passing down back on this roster other than Tyjae Spears. Like the concern that I have with Pollard is that his pass down efficiency, his receiving efficiency has fallen off an absolute cliff the last 2 years. While a lot of his rushing efficiency recovered last year versus where it was in Dallas, that really disappointing 2023. The receiving stuff did not. So I was concerned that Spears was just going to kind of monopolize that, where he's a lot better than Pollard. But like the current backup on this roster, if Spears is out, is Khalil Mullings or like Julius Chestnut or whoever these goofs are. So I think for the first couple of weeks, it's going to be like 85% Tony Pollard. And then Spears will eventually come back, but it's a high ankle. So like usually high ankles linger for about an extra month. I think Pollard becomes like, if you're doing like a 0 RB build, you can still get Pollard in the 6th. That's pretty interesting because he's going to buy you a lot of time, I think, before some of your younger bets like a Bashal Tootin, Cam Scatabo, Jayden Blue, all these exciting guys kind of before they become weekly starters for you.
Yeah, rookie quarterback too. It's going to potentially open up some check downs. We love that. Like you said, early, more than likely to smash. Let's talk about the Jets backfield.
Yeah.
Real quick, because the usage for these guys, obviously every time Braylon Allen touches the football, Twitter just goes into a frenzy, regardless if the hole was wide enough that me and my bad knees could still run through it. So Ryan, you wrote the show sheet. You have him on here. Let's dive in to what you wanted to ask Scott about Breece Hall.
Yeah, so I have a feeling I know Scott's opinion here. I've been on kind of both sides of Breece Hall this season. I've been kind of anti-Breece Hall in Dynasty just because I see a lot of risk of, well, it's kind of over if everything Aaron Glenn says is true. In redraft, I've been more open to the idea of, well, what if Breece Hall is actually way better than Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, which is a crazy concept, I know. But yeah, Scott, I mean, are you, after seeing Hall only play half the snaps with the starters, seeing Isaiah Davis come in on third down, seeing Braylon Allen run through an open hole that people get very excited about, are you lower on Breece Hall? Is he like a guy in Dynasty that you need to get the hell out on? Or are you still open to the upside case where this guy was your 102 1 year ago in redraft, and we both felt amazing about that at the time?
Yeah, and looking back on it too, like, let's not forget there were, speculation that the Jets were really trying to trade hard for Jahmyr Gibbs. And then we've had this offseason of just horrific vibes where the coach is just like, oh, not only is it going to be Braylon Allen way more involved, but it's also the Isaiah Davis show. And welcome to a 3-way committee backfield on a team that's not going to be any good, with a quarterback who also vultures touchdowns. So the 50% snap share in preseason is just like furthering that, negativity, and something that, really quite scary to Breece Hall owners. The argument, the counter argument, why we can't bury Breece Hall is he's just, had this amazing, like, finding a running back with his pass catching ability, and who's also like quite good on the ground, I think, is just so rare. A stat I had is the only running backs with 200 plus carries and 75 plus targets in back-to-back seasons since 2008. LaDainian Tomlinson, Ray Rice, Matt Forte, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and then Breece Hall on an active streak. And so that, like, just that one stat as like a pro style argument is so powerful, so persuasive. It really like does negate and overrule some of the other things until you get to where we're at, which is a 50% snap share in preseason. The coach is hyping up everyone but Breece Hall. And then there's the rumors that Jerry Jones is trying to desperately trade for Breece Hall at all costs, which is a rumor I just made up, and it doesn't actually exist. But like, that would be
I don't think that exists.
That would be so cool. So there's that too. You get a factor, but yeah. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. This is, I said to Ryan multiple times, I think I tweeted it out too, is like, my draft guide would have came out like a full day or two earlier if Breece Hall didn't exist. Ryan and I have literally spent like 4 days of our lives debating back and forth on Breece Hall in 2025 drafts. So he's just like one of the toughest players, I think, for me, at least. Curious what you think, Jacob.
Well, first off, yeah, I think I'll compare him, and I'll bring in sort of another piece of preseason quote unquote news. We talked about this on ADP Chasing today too. I care a lot more about the specific like bad version of Breece Hall preseason usage than I do about some others, because the way that they deployed those running backs was like very intentional, and it took a lot of effort to sub them in and off the field in such a meticulous way that really shows to me like they are trying to operate their offense on that drive in the way that they probably plan to operate their offense in week 1, which means I accept that their current plan is for Isaiah Davis to play third and longs. We didn't get to see them do a 2-minute drill, but there's at least some risk that if they're doing Isaiah Davis on third and longs, that they might also do him on a 2-minute drill. And that, Braylon Allen is going to have a rotational role as well. Compare that, for instance, to the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield, where everybody was freaking out. I care like way less about that, where it's like Travis Etienne got the entire drive. It's like, okay, cool, but I don't think that's how they're actually going to operate. So when I see teams do the sort of you get a drive, I don't really read all that much into what that means for their rotations, because I think that's just them letting guys get drives and the incumbent gets the first one. The Cope post part of this is you can make fun of me if you want as a bag defender, but like, if all of these signals are true that the Jets are out on the Breece Hall experience, we're speed running our way to Breece Hall on a different team in 2026, which means good things in Dynasty. Here's a fun fact about Breece Hall. You know who's younger between Breece Hall and RJ Harvey? Breece Hall is younger currently today than RJ Harvey. You fast forward him into next year, he'll still be age 25. We've now seen this new era of running backs succeeding on second contracts and better environments. I don't want Breece Hall on this weird, ideologically committed to a committee staff, running next to Justin Fields, who's going to make it harder for him to catch passes. I want Breece Hall to go somewhere where he's loved and has a real opportunity to establish himself as a bell cow on a new team. It's not the Jets. So I think for this year, I don't feel all that great about my current Breece Hall bags. I'm just kind of hoping to get there on explosive plays at this point. But for a dynasty perspective, I think, hope is a dangerous thing.
I might go even further, which is like if this coaching staff is so ideologically committed to putting worse players on the field just because like they did it with David Montgomery in Detroit, and we add in everything we've heard about how Justin Fields has looked at every practice throughout this entire training camp. Can we be speed running Breece Hall to a different coaching staff this year, potentially, that will just, let's say week 7, week 8, get the bell cow usage back going.
Cowboys, I think the Houston Texans are probably the most likely, because I think the Cowboys are just weirdly if the Jets are weirdly ideologically committed to committees, the Cowboys have become ideologically committed to not investing in running backs ever. Like they are so scarred from the Ezekiel Elliott thing. I mean, this is every year I get into fights on Twitter when in the spring, I'm like, the Jets are not, or the Cowboys are not going to spend up at running back. They're not going to sign who you think they're going to sign. They're not going to draft who you think they're going to draft. They don't actually give a fuck about the running back position. And everybody always thinks that they do. I totally buy in that they're not going to do it. They're saving their 4th round picks to spend on future Jonathan Mingos and Trey Lance's. They're not going to invest in the running back position. But the Houston Texans love the running back position. And everything you hear about Joe Mixon is just horrible. Then they're like, yeah, Nick Chubb, he's old, really old, and he can't move anymore. And they drafted Woody Marks, who they might think is good currently, but they're going to be disabused of that notion. So hopefully maybe that's where Breece Hall gets to go.
I was more suggesting that the entire Jet staff would get fired by week 8.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that they're going to get fired by week 8. But that'd be nice.
I think the only problem with the players in new situations is just happen to be like some of the most elite players at the position also happen to go to like some of the best teams in football. So it's not just a copy and paste scenario for someone like Hall to fall into one of those spots. And when you include there's so few teams that run bell cows, it's no matter what, there's a little bit of hopium in it. But I am hoping for your dynasty bags, Jacob, that you get everything that you desire like Christmas next year. For the audience, though, I hope not, so we can continue to fight over it. Ryan, you got one more on there. Let's dive in before we move on.
Yeah, let's do it. And I put this on the show sheet because I knew Jacob had a defined take on it. And I am curious kind of to pick Scott's brain too. But I'll go to Scott first. And that's the Buccaneers backfield. So Rachaad White is either week to week or day to day with a groin injury. I've seen it reported both ways. God knows. Nobody knows with injuries this time of year.
Well, Todd Bowles couldn't be less reliable.
Fair enough.
So yeah, he says.
We'll go with the opposite of what Todd Bowles said, so week to week with a groin injury for Rachaad White. Is this changing how you see Bucky Irving? I mean, my first instinct is that's more routes for Bucky Irving, and that's great. But is Sean Tucker low-key a bigger threat? How are you seeing this if Rachaad White is going to be missing the rest of training camp and possibly week 1?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty bullish on Bucky Irving. I've been the past few days. I think he's like who we wanted Tony Pollard to be in 2023, where he had that like insanely hyper efficient season, and then he was kind of like guaranteed to get more work in the following year. But like you just look at what he did last year, or over his last 8 full games, right? He averaged 20 fantasy points per game. That's RB4 numbers, and he did it on a 55.8% snap share, where like he was already a committee back. I mean, he was kind of like, Jahmyr Gibbs too, when David Montgomery was healthy. We're just like the efficiency on a really good offense was that insane. And so like, I think that's guaranteed to go up. I think if Rachaad White is down, I think that's even better. I know there's been some, Matthew Berry has this article where he goes to the combine, and I'm guessing he just like drinks with like assistant coaches, and he gives you, kind of sources. And one of his sources things was that the Buccaneers couldn't stop raving about Sean Tucker, and he like really liked him. And it was kind of like cold water on Rachaad White. I kind of personally just like don't really buy that. I was never a Sean Tucker guy. I know there were plenty of like very strong Sean Tucker guys. So yeah, I read it as a good thing. I think, the assumed direct backup is hurt for a while. So you get a bump for the first few weeks. He's missing practice. That's, less practice time is also a bump, but, really not a huge needle mover. Like the big thing with Bucky is just, you have this insanely hyper efficient player who's going to get more work. And so for those who don't know, Ryan and I have really been kind of tag teaming things this year, where a lot of the things that are going, he wrote anatomy for us this year, and a lot of the things going out with my name on it, it's more of a collaborative effort for Ryan. And so like my rankings for my draft guide, I talk to Ryan about constantly. We're working on it together, and we're going to have a phone call tomorrow debating players. And a big one is, how bullish do I want to be on Bucky Irving versus a Chase Brown, who goes a little bit later, that I know we both think is going to get uber bell cow usage this year. And so like, I don't have a firm conviction. It's like, yeah, I want to have that phone call with you tomorrow, Ryan, and talk this out a little bit more. But I'm also really curious to hear what you have to say, Jacob.
So my thoughts on Bucky, I've never had a tweet that's been more wildly misinterpreted than the tweet thread I did on the Bucky Irving stuff. I like aggravated me so extremely, where I had a bunch of people like basically just replying to what I thought was like a fairly nuanced and well thought out post that like maybe people can disagree with, but people being like, Bucky's going to show you, nerd, or whatever else. Like, and I'm like, do people not like have any idea of like all of the glorious things I've been saying about Bucky Irving since he was at Oregon? Like, this is my dude. But I love Bucky Irving, and I think going into this year, I'm firmly above market. That being said, my thoughts on this were like anybody's initial thought when someone at their position goes down. It's like Bucky Irving to the moon, the other guy to the moon, rocket ship. And my thought was just, I think it's a little bit more nuanced in this case. And really my post was less about Irving and more just like kind of how I think about backfields. But like I view Rachaad White as a nice piece of insulation, frankly, for Bucky Irving, in that he has a role because the thing he does best is like block linebackers on 3rd and 9. And that's probably what Bucky Irving does worst. And Rachaad White's not very good at really anything else. So I kind of love having Rachaad White around just to soak up snaps that Bucky Irving shouldn't get anyways, not take on that many touches. And I think that most people are too bearish on Bucky's total touch potential next to White, because White saw 10 carries over the last 4 games of last year when they were trying to win their way into the playoffs and then win a playoff game. And I think it's weird that people look at a day 3 rookie who had to usurp this job in 1 year by force, eventually did. And then people are like, I actually don't think what the team did at the end of the year when they had to win a game to win a playoff game is what they actually want to do. I think they want to get Rachaad White more involved. And it's like, why is that people's reads? It doesn't make any sense to me. All that being said, now I still don't think Bucky is ever going to be like, 90% workload guy, because he's a small individual. So now they're going to find a way to get Sean Tucker involved a little bit. It's not going to be more than Bucky, but how do you get Sean Tucker involved? Not pass blocking on 3rd and 9. Like Bucky, at least a way better receiving back than Tucker. So I think he takes those long down distance snaps. They get Tucker involved a little bit on the ground. And Sean Tucker, maybe I disagree with Scott, but I think he rules. I think any touches that you give him on the ground are going to go really, really well for the team employing him. And so best case scenario, Bucky proves, actually, I am a good passing down back. I can do these things you doubted me for. And now he has, a similar touch split that he used to have, but he has even more valuable receiving touches, and we're just going to the moon. The thing I'm a little concerned about is like, what I actually kind of expect is that he does not pass protect very well. They want to bring White back in that limited role, but Tucker is just too good to take off of the field, and they keep him involved. And now all of a sudden, Bucky Irving's James Cook, and Sean Tucker's Ray Davis, and Rachaad White is Ty Johnson. I just think that's a little bit scary. It's not like I'm saying he's going to lose his job to Sean Tucker, like people were implying, but I think there's like a little bit of James Cook downside.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the vibes are like incredible. The quotes are really good because this was a concern for me where it's like, yeah, this guy was so incredibly productive, so insanely hyper efficient, but like he did only clear a 63% snap share once or twice all of last season. So that was the flip side of it. But like all the offseason vibes and reports, like I said, I mentioned that Barry article, his quote from that was, Bucks can't stop raving about this kid. He is going to be a true alpha RB1. You have quotes from Bowles saying he's expecting greatness this year. The game has slowed down. He's gotten even better with his footwork and pass protection. Josh Grizzard quotes kind of saying the same thing. So, you know, I wasn't as high on Sean Tucker and Rachaad White. I just kind of think you have this guy who, you know, is putting up top 5 numbers with a 56% snap share. And whether it's Rachaad White or it's Sean Tucker, that's going to go up to probably like a 66% snap share, at least, I think, personally. But again, this was another tricky player.
Yeah, and hard to argue any of it. I just think he's a baller, and
right.
I think second year when you have a rookie that does what he did, I'm expecting a usage bump. But
I was making the same argument with Devon Achane last year, where I was like, guys, he just had literally the most efficient rookie season of all time, and we're like putting a ceiling on his touches. Why are we doing this? And I mean, that obviously worked out pretty incredibly. So yeah, I'm almost like, I feel like I've been holding myself back on that with Bucky Irving this year, and now I'm questioning maybe I shouldn't be, because as Scott said, all the coaching vibes are great. Jeremy Fowler's notes from training camp were very similar, where they want to use Bucky on passing down specifically. So I don't know. It's been tough for me. I think we'll have the call tomorrow, Scott, but we might end up leaving that higher on Bucky Irving.
You know the difference between Bucky Irving and Devon Achane is that Devon Achane didn't have a Sean Tucker in the backfield with him.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that the Devi guy is the highest on Sean Tucker.
Yeah. You're never beating those allegations, Lucas.
Dude, I know. I'm going to have to just lean into it at this point.
I'm like a Devi centrist in the sense that, like, I can't think of how many players there are exactly like Sean Tucker who I've been lower on in Devi for years because I'm like, I don't think the NFL is going to like him as much as you all think. But then he gets to the NFL, and I'm no longer having Sean Tucker debates with Devi people. I'm mostly having them with non-Devi people. And then I'm like the Sean Tucker truther. I'm like, you guys don't know, how we used to feel this guy back at Syracuse. So hopefully this goes better than Zach Evans.
Sean Tucker, Izzy Abanikanda. Oh, people who break my heart.
Too many. There's too many to name. With that being said, well,
if they just gave Sean Tucker his backfield, which they shouldn't because Bucky is the best, but like, let's say, God forbid, everybody else in this backfield, got like massacred by lightning, and Sean Tucker just got a chance to have this backfield. I promise you on God, like incredible things would happen. It would be, we would all be living within his light and presence.
It would be the most fun Buccaneers backfield since, oh my gosh, I almost said Sean Tucker.
He would rename their team to Buccaneers.
Since Doug Martin was back there.
the most fun Buccaneers backfield since the one Saints game where Sean Tucker went for 150 yards and won the Millie Maker.
In like one quarter.
Yeah, and that was the only time they've given him real snaps. So,
All right. That's enough Sean Tucker for today. Well, like sand through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives on Tuesday nights for Dynasty Points. Sit tight. First break. We'll be back right after this.
This is Nick B, and I'm reading this ad because I was my fantasy league's biggest loser. So if you want to win your fantasy league and make more money, head to fantasypoints.com to get the edge you need.
Do you guys know whose voice that is?
I said the same question.
Are you guys Jacob, how old are you?
28.
I'm so
old. Are you
old.
too young for Cat Dog?
Probably, because I've certainly never heard of Cat Dog.
Okay. He was the voice of Cat Dog and the cat Salem on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. If you were like 5 years old,
gosh.
you know what that is.
Yeah.
Got nothing.
Yeah, just a
I
phenomenal.
assume Ryan's
poll.
got nothing. If I got
Yeah,
nothing,
Now, if you were a Nickelodeon
nothing.
kid, then you know
I wasn't a
Cat Dog.
Nickelodeon kid.
See,
That's
that's
my
the issue.
Oh, you were a Degrassi kid, you filthy Canadian.
No, I didn't watch any of that. My mom only let me watch TV with educational value.
Like
Oh,
Days
well,
of Our
that's why
Lives.
you're a super successful lawyer. Good for you.
Like Days of Our Lives. We have what everyone wants is a modified The People v. Scott Barrett this week. Before we do, Gary did ask a super chat. We have it here. A nice quick rundown. We know Scott's opinion on this, but it might just be an opportunity for him to mention Rashid Shaheed again. But he wants a quick thought on Chris Olave. if you're in or out as you've gone through your rankings excruciatingly, Scott.
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy. You remember the first Chris
do.
Olave debate like 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm waiting to be proven wrong that he's considerably better than Rashid Shaheed. The one thing I will say is you have to imagine, he's probably pretty cheap right now relative to where he was a few years ago. You have the Kellen Moore thing. What is his price in the Dynasty streets?
Too damn low. It's probably like it's like somewhere between a late first and an early second.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
I mean, look, like if there's a player that has a really high yards per route run and targets per route run, but is never on the field and plays in a terrible offense, I think you all know where I'm going to stand, which is that he is a dynasty buy. I have like 30% Chris Olave on underdog because I'm a glutton for punishment. It's basically just like all I can do at this point. I don't have the energy to like actually fight about Chris Olave, but I can just like send you a spreadsheet of players with 2+ yards per route run in 2 of their first 3 seasons and the comps lists, and they're all really good. And I think he's really good. And what if
one of them
he
is
scores
Rashid
touchdowns?
Shaheed.
Unfortunately, I can't really like come up with a way to bull post about a Tyler Shuck offense or Spencer Rattler offense or Jake Hayner offense, but
it's coming though. He's very much acquirable in Dynasty. You've got like Ricky Pearsall straight up, Terry McLaurin straight up, Jalen Waddle in a 2. He's definitely acquirable. I'd be poking around. I'd be asking. What the people really want though, Scott, is you've talked on School of Scott. You obviously had Rich Rebar on not that long ago explaining how excruciating it had been, almost to the point of madness with your rankings.
Yeah.
The people need an argument. So, Ryan, you have handpicked, seeing as how you wrote the show sheet this week. Let's kick off.
So let me just say really quickly, like I'm really excited for this. I love Ryan so much. I really value his opinion. He's brilliant, and I don't take it lightly that we disagree, right? And I think just because of my respect for Ryan and all the work he puts in, like I should probably hedge with just go in the middle. But I'm excited for this because like please prove me wrong. All I want is the best rankings possible, and I'm like legitimately scared it's a cognitive bias or it's I'm wrong for psychological reasons, and I can't have that. I'm worried it's like, at a certain point, the student is going to surpass the teacher, right? Like, I know that's an inevitability and I don't want this to just be the case. Like I am fighting him because I don't want to give up the throne to Ryan. So like, I don't know who your best YouTube commenter is. Please, like, we're going to get into these debates. Let me know if you think I'm wrong and you think Ryan's right or vice versa. Well, all we want here is the best rankings possible so you can dominate your league. And I will say a good thing is, Ryan just dropped his giant article of his must draft players, and the overlap is 94%. That is a great sign when you have two.
Today we're focusing on the 6. Yeah.
Yes. Today we're focusing on the 6. Let's get into it.
I also will say that the players we selected are a mix of some players that Ryan disagrees with you, some players that me and Ryan disagree with you, some players that I disagree with you and Ryan, some players where we're all kind of in the middle. It's a bit of a mishmash.
Right.
Yeah. First, I just want to say thanks for saying that, Scott. That feels amazing. Now that you have said all those nice things about me, I feel like Travis Hunter is going to totally fail me this year, and I'm extremely nervous about this. But yeah, I mean, the first.
Don't backpedal, Ryan. You have your one chance now. Step up.
Put him in the locker, bro.
The first big, obvious, glaring issue that the people have brought up against you, Scott, is not just that you're too low on Travis Hunter, but that you're kind of trying to have Travis Hunter both ways. And that, no, I will not rank Travis Hunter well above ADP in my initial rankings. That's something that you refuse to do. But you will also post at multiple points this offseason, both like 2 months ago and also this past week, about how you have these massive MVP bets
and today
long shot MVP bets on Travis Hunter, including traveling to the state of Louisiana just to get this action down. So, I mean, tell me, Scott, where are we here on Travis Hunter? I have heard everything on him from you, he's just going to play on defense and he's going to be at a 40% route share, bro. And imagine Malik Neighbors would have only averaged 14 fantasy points per game on even a 70% route share last year, to, he's the best football player of all time and he's going to be insane two ways and he's going to win MVP and win me $1 million. So where are you actually on Travis Hunter? What is the actual take? Because I just need to know so that I can actually argue against it.
I wish I knew. You're right. I'm slimy. I'm slippery here. I do think the ultimate way to play Travis Hunter is exactly what I did. On Sunday, I drove to Louisiana with my wife. I won $3,000 on Travis Hunter to win Heisman last year. It might have been more than that or whatever, but I took $3,000. I betted on him to win MVP at 300-1 odds. If he wins, I win $1 million, $900,000. You could do the math, whatever it is. And that to me feels like the appropriate tail risk for if he's elite. All he has to do to win that is to do what he did last year in college, right?
All you have to do is be the most valuable player in the NFL.
I mean, that he has better odds than any non-quarterback you can ever remember just because he plays two positions.
Look, I agree with you. I also bet Travis Hunter for MVP. Right. I'm with you. I did not bet $3,000 on it, but I bet Travis Hunter for MVP. I agree with that. I think it is like a very, if you zoom way out, if I zoom so far out that I can't even see your face, what you're seeing makes perfect sense. It's like there's this player that like has this crazy tail outcome, but his median's not that good. So like,
but I'm saying his odds of winning the MVP to me,
I know,
feel better than the odds of him having like an OBJ like rookie season. Like the fantasy bet,
the idea that like, but your thesis could be correct, but like he could get 2 fewer MVP votes than like Patrick Mahomes. Like it's just like that is such like an unbelievably high bar that he could like easily have. Yeah, I just mean like in that world, like there's such a chasm between being a great pick in like round 6 and being the MVP of the NFL, and the idea that like this is unlikely, but like this is it just doesn't pass muster to me. Like I agree that he is probably more undervalued the higher on the tail you go. So like he's a better bet to win MVP than he is, to win offensive or defensive rookie of the year individually. And he is a better bet to win those two things parlayed than to draft. But like, I would also say he's just a better bet in, a seasonal tournament, like the main event, than he is in Dynasty. But then I just keep thinking about it. And at the end of the day, I just think when I'm on my deathbed and I'm telling my grandkids about the experience that I had watching the best football player of all time, I would really hate to say, well, I actually drafted 4% of him in Best Ball Mania, so it kind of buried me, but he finished 3rd in MVP voting, and my Skolansky bucks were pretty good because that was the correct EV play. I think my grandkid won't appreciate it.
Right. I think that's the best argument. Honestly, I think that's better than the arguments Ryan made in his article. Is like, I want to be on the right side of history. Where like you guys read my prospect article. I wrote that and was just like, this is the NFL Shohei Ohtani. He is worthy of the 101. He is the best odds to make it to the Hall of Fame of any player I can remember coming out. And this was at a time where that was pretty controversial. Like, people did not expect him to be necessarily a top 3 pick at that time. And the dynasty community was considerably lower on him. And yeah, let me be on the right. Like, I said Jamar Chase was going to be a Hall of Famer. I said Brock Bowers, guaranteed. This is the best tight end prospect of all time. And those were 2 players I was lower on for redraft, and I could never forgive myself.
And why?
Am I doing
like,
the exact same
what's
thing?
Up with that? Yeah, you are. And I don't understand why you were low on those 2 players.
I know. It's like I had. So again, I think it's a psychological thing, or that's my worry, where like I'm covered in the tail event with this bet, but it was also like I was the, acquire Brock Bowers at all costs. I would take him in round 1 of a startup. And then like redraft comes around and like my boomer brain kicks in or something. But I will. So here was the argument. There's another buried lead here that stuff has come out the preseason game, a quote before that, where like I'm admitting defeat. But the original argument was that the bet on Travis Hunter to be an amazing fantasy pick was sort of like a 3-legged parlay that's different from other players, where like the first leg of the parlay is like, is okay, this guy is really good. The same as Ted McMillan, you have to make that same bet. The second leg was that this role is really valuable. This Liam Cohen number 2 role is really valuable, where I think
you think he's going to win MVP, but you don't think he'd be better than Brian Thomas?
This was the other thing that I feel like
Brian Thomas Jr. I want to push ahead of Justin Jefferson. I think for me to hit that MVP bet, maybe I might need
Sounds like you should bet on someone else for MVP.
I was going to say that sounds like a Trevor Lawrence MVP season.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So if you're the number 10 highest paid wide receiver in football, and you're the number 10 highest paid cornerback in football, you're making more, and you put those together, you're making more than every player in the NFL except for Dak Prescott. And so that is an argument where it's like, hey, he's playing wide receiver at a top 10 level, maybe BTJ's top 3, and he's playing cornerback at a top 10 level. Then you have Orlovsky and Mina Kimes and all these people like, you know what, actually this probably, it might be more valuable than what, Josh Allen is doing this year. So I think that is a legitimate bet.
I think you're thinking that the MVP voters are more like Mina Kimes, but I'm telling you they're more like Pete Prisco.
Well,
yeah, it sounds like this is like an argument you go viral on Twitter in December with, Scott, and everyone's like, damn, that's so true. And Twitter is like super on your side for it. And then the MVP votes are, it was 48-2. Josh Allen.
There's such a strong likelihood that I will think
he gets
the MVP and not get. I still think it's a great bet at 300-1.
Yeah. And again, I could cash out. By the way, my track record, I had Lamar at 100-1. When he won, I had Brock Purdy at 100-1 when he was like a -300 favorite heading into week 14. I mean,
I'd make fun of you for that, but I had Jalen Hurts the previous year, which obviously didn't win, but like I've been victory lapping a hedge as well, so I can't really make fun of you for that.
Yeah. So yeah, again, is the second leg is Jacksonville wide receiver number 2 role, really valuable, which I think is fine. It's like, Ted McMillan, number 1, Dave Canales, wide receiver. That's valuable. But then the third leg was what was tripping me up. And it was a third leg that not like third leg Greg Olson, shout out to my favorite rapper. The third leg of this parlay is that Ted McMillan doesn't have this. No other wide receiver has this, is that the coaching staff would do something stupid. Like he's 2 drives on, 1 drive off on both offense and defense. He's sitting out of every fourth quarter when they're leading by multiple scores. If there's a cornerback injury, he's playing more cornerback than he is playing wide receiver. And I was just really, because like that's a killer. Like if you are not running a route on over 2/3 of your dropbacks, like you are not a fantasy difference maker. And so that was my big concern. And where we're getting to a point where I have to admit defeat, and it's just a matter of how high do we want to go, is you had Liam Cohen come out and say he's the slot, where we saw in preseason, it was they kind of split it, but primarily the slot, which I talk a lot about Ben Johnson's slot. The Liam Cohen slot might be even more valuable than that. And then we see the preseason where he played 100% of the 11 personnel snaps. He didn't play as much 2 wide receiver sets, but we have a quote from Cohen saying he's going to come along in that regard. And I mean, Brown sucks. Parker Washington sucks. And so, yeah, this is an admission of defeat. I don't think my reasoning,
like 85% of pass plays anyway. So like
1 second, I don't think my reasoning was wrong. And I think taking Travis Hunter as high as Ryan Heath had him 3 weeks ago was a mistake. Just because you're right now doesn't mean your process was on point and mine was off. It's slippery. I know. Like I said, I apologize, but that's more or less right.
This is like, you know what you sound. No,
Moisturize.
I was gonna make a political analogy that would get us in hot water.
Right. Tom says no to those on this show. But
I will say this: like I can understand where you're coming from, Scott. I think the difference all summer between us was I just had a little bit more trust in Liam Cohen and just to be like a sharp coach in terms of how he deploys his players, because that's kind of all we have seen from him in an admittedly small NFL sample. But I had just never gotten any sort of donkey vibes from him. And maybe that's like me being green and a fresh-faced fantasy analyst that hasn't had his heart broken by enough donkey-ass coaches. But yeah, to me, I was like, yeah, I don't think they're going to mess this up. Like this is clearly Cohen needs Hunter to be really freaking good. This entire organization needs Hunter to be really freaking good, especially on offense, where that is where the fan base and ownership and everybody is going to be judged the most harshly with Cohen as an offensive head coach. So I defend my ranking of Travis Hunter from 3 weeks ago. I think I've been proven right, but yeah, that's
still
disagree. Proven right yet? Let's not laugh yet. We got 0 games in.
I know.
We talk asymmetric.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting, as Jacob would say. We haven't been proven right, but it's very interesting.
It's getting.
You and I, upside wins championships. We talk about asymmetric upside. To me, still, it was a case of asymmetric downside, where if he's just this part-time player on offense, but ultimately the results, I think, in terms of process, this is for sure a player I need to be moving up. I will say you wrote your article, Ryan. I still think Jacob's argument was ultimately the most persuasive, which was just in my DMs. He was like, you really don't want to be on the greatest football player ever.
Let's also not forget we
with
watched
love.
It was always with love, for sure.
Brackets respectfully.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's not forget we saw Hunter pretend to try to make one tackle in the preseason.
Bullish.
And it went
I want to see him
terrible.
miss so many more tackles. I want to be the worst tackler in human history.
All I thought was, you're playing wide receiver, buddy. Like that's how I approached it. So
in a way, like the people who say he has to tackle Derrick Henry are correct. He will, quote unquote, tackle Derrick Henry like every other defender in the National Football League does, which is pretending to try to tackle Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
To go behind the curtain before I rudely interrupted Scott, it was like I was just like had just smoked a lot of weed. I'm playing college football and I see Scott being a boomer about Travis Hunter, and I just hopped into his DMs and I was like, give your head a shake. What is going on here? Please find God. And maybe he has a little bit. We'll see. I hope he wins that MVP and we all get rich.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's hope we can move BTJ up over Justin Jefferson as well, because boy, the vibes would be high on BTJ. And
there's another one of those Trevor Lawrence hospital balls. BTJ, one number one. That was rough for So one BTJ injury away, those odds are skyrocketing.
If we get this massive Trevor Lawrence season, the internal struggle that I will have between 2 of my most long-standing takes. One is that Trevor Lawrence is good, and 2 is that quarterback is like basically an irrelevant position outside of the top 8, and that it's just a function of environment. And like trying to figure out which of those to victory lap in week 4 to 5 is going to be an impossible task for me, because the clear answers probably would be the second one. But I think I would not be able to have the psychological fortitude to resist a Trevor Lawrence is good and all you haters suck.
Well, I can solve it. You'll write about the second one and you'll podcast about the first one, because you can be loudest about the first one and smartest about the second. Because I know you too well, and that's exactly how that would go. Let's not take an entire podcast length on Travis Hunter. We have some other players. Brian, you have a couple of 49ers on the sheet. Let us discuss.
Yeah. So Scott has gone like full film bro on me with the 49ers wide receivers this year, which is not really something I quite expected. So recently his take has been that Ricky Pearsall is actually a better pick, a better value, a better upside bet than Jauan Jennings, and that he thinks Pearsall is going to outproduce Jennings this year. So I guess you can give the take, Scott, but I guess my biggest thing is what happened to Ricky Pearsall, where you had him ranked very lowly as a prospect. Before the show, I should have gone back and looked at your write-ups to see where you had Pearsall as a prospect. What have you seen from him in whatever it is, the 11 games, the 270 routes he's had in the NFL, to make you think he's anything other than like a kind of a fake round 1 wide receiver profile that is getting propped up because we like this offense and we don't actually know if he's good?
Well, keep in mind, I write those articles from an analytics perspective, sort of acknowledging I'm not a film bro, and the film bros do matter. And this is a pre-NFL draft article. And then once we get that missing variable, project actual draft capital, if a player I had a round 3 grade on goes round 1, yeah, I'm going to move him up. And that's exactly what happened. He's a round 1 player. You can contrast that to a Jauan Jennings, who was a round 7 player. Interesting factoid: he's the only wide receiver whose Spork percentile of athleticism matches the round he was drafted in. You have Ricky Pearsall, an 81st percentile athlete, versus a Jauan Jennings, a 7th percentile athlete. And I am so shocked that you are not higher on Ricky Pearsall, who is, this is a dynasty show. Ricky Pearsall, spiritually a rookie. I expected you guys to be like rookie obsessed.
Spiritually a rookie. I love that.
Dude, he started off his rookie season on the NFI list with a hamstring. He gets activated, immediately picks up a shoulder injury. 2 weeks later, gets shot in the freaking chest. By the way, no one picked up on my 50 Cent reference in my draft guide, and I'm so mad about it. So he missed a ton of time. He only started 2 games, and yet he has the same number of career 100-yard games as Jauan Jennings. I don't know why this is a debate in the slightest. I think this is a shut case. Ricky Pearsall, Brett Whitefield loved, drafted round 1, really exciting player. Feels so much better about him versus a Jauan Jennings. Your rebuttal.
I actually want to let Jacob go first, because I know Jacob is kind of high on both these players. So I want to let Jacob go first, and then I can close the loop at the end, maybe.
I think you guys are wrong to choose. Oh, what just happened to me? Oh, no, we're good. We're good. I think you don't have to choose, because you look at where the ADP of the 49ers.
Well, that's a cop-out.
No, it's not a cop-out. It's just
We're going in the same round on at least.
This is like the same olive branch that I extended Scott the other day,
here,
and he said the same thing to me, Jacob. Yeah.
This is not a cop-out, because I don't care what rounds they go ahead. Take one the round before. In fact, we didn't end up doing it because there was like 5 co-managers. But I had argued in our chat. I was like, let's actually take Pearsall, because he was going first, a round ahead of his ADP, so we can come back and take Jennings the very next round. I think you look at where the 49ers were going last year, before all the sort of shenanigans started to happen. Debo was going mid-2, and Ayuk was going mid-2. Kittle was going in round 5. McCaffrey was going first overall. And then this year, McCaffrey, there's more uncertainty about him. He's going late 1. Kittle is now going a lot higher than he was at the beginning of the year. Fair enough. So he's going kind of the early fourths. He's gone up a round. But instead of having Ayuk and Debo going in round 2, we now have these guys going like in round 6, 7 even, depending on, what kind of home league you're playing, maybe even in the 8th. I think it's crazy because last year I thought Brock Purdy, I know they went 6-11, but like Brock Purdy did more last year to prove to me he's actually good than any other year, because I thought he had to do more on his own. I was way more impressed by Purdy last year than anything he'd done previously. Their defense was kind of bad last year, and it got ravaged by injuries and the offseason. So I think their defense is going to low-key suck this year, maybe high-key suck this year. And then Brandon Ayuk is just like a fake person who's artificially suppressing other people's ADPs, but doesn't actually exist. He's going to play apparently somewhere between week 5 and week 10. He's going to come back. Cool. He tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. I don't know if his career is ever going to be recovered. I think that the chances he's a meaningful player this season are infinitesimal. So, and at the very least, he's only a meaningful player if the other guys just flop, which is not really something we should be worried about with mid-round wide receiver picks. So I look at this offense as they're going to absolutely light it up. However much credit you want to dole out between Purdy and Shanahan for the endless efficiency of the 49ers passing offense, pretty much irrelevant for the argument of their wide receivers. By some combination of Purdy and Shanahan, they're going to be efficient. And I've at least seen enough from Pearsall and Jennings to know they're not total scrubs who are going to sabotage. I think Pearsall does NFL things well. I liked him way more than his analytical profile as a prospect because I think he fits the archetype of wide receivers who win now, where he can separate in the intermediate areas and do damage after the catch. And Jennings is coming off a season where he just had a 27% targets per route run as basically a full-time player. So I think both these guys are going to be top 24 wide receivers this year. If I had to pick, gun to head, I guess I'm Team Scott. I would take Pearsall first, but I want both of them on my team.
All right. So the first thing I have to say in my rebuttal, and this is towards Scott, not towards Jacob, who I align with more, but would just gun to my head pick Jennings. I can't believe you just cited wide receiver athleticism to me, Scott, which is kind of hilariously the thing that you in past years and me this year spend a weird amount of time on in the offseason, only to post every single year. Yeah, look, there's actually zero correlation between wide receiver athleticism and how they actually produce in the NFL. Literally doesn't matter. I actually can't even believe that you wasted a point on that. I don't know if that was to give me a straw man to knock down, to get the chat back on my side, or what that was. But either way, I appreciate it. Yeah, to me, the Pearsall stuff is a little wish-casty to me. I am open to the idea that he's good. I'm open to the idea that we have to throw out all of his fairly uninspiring data, per route data, whatever, from his rookie season. Yeah, I get it, guys. He got shot. Enough people have told me that even if I didn't know that initially, I would hope I know it by now. To me, I just look at these receivers. We kind of think of Pearsall in the Deebo Samuel role as what has gotten everybody so excited, is this suggestion that he'll Jacob can argue against that after if he wants, but this is an idea that's out there, at least, that it's going to be Pearsall in the Deebo role. He's lining up in the backfield. Maybe he'll get a few carries or whatever, but he'll be around the line of scrimmage. The Deebo role has kind of sucked since Christian McCaffrey came to San Francisco. Just over 13 fantasy points per game, 11.5 expected fantasy points per game for Deebo with Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. It's not actually that amazing of a role to me. That doesn't get me going a ton. What does get me going a lot is Jauan Jennings last year in 9 games without either Deebo or Ayuk on the field. He was the wide receiver 8 by fantasy points per game. I don't care how many 100-yard games he has in his career, which is the arbitrary cutoff that you choose in order to make him sound worse. I care about the fantasy production. I care about the target share, which was also firmly top 12. I care about the yards per route run. I care about the average separation score. I care about all of these per route stats that showed that he was pretty much an elite level wide receiver 1, top 12 in all of these stats. Is that partially the Shanahan effect? Yeah, obviously. I would not argue otherwise. But Why is that going to be any different this year? He's in the same exact offense. He has the same exact target competition as when he was a borderline wide receiver one. To me, the upside, or at least the confirmed and projectable upside, is just a lot higher with Jauan Jennings. So if I have to choose between them, gun to my head, it's Jennings. But I would agree with Jacob that this is just a good situation to buy into and make bets on, period.
You know, since I don't want to beat the Devy allegations at this point in time, the thing that I will always remember Jauan Jennings for is back in college, whenever his wide receiver coach was Zach Azzani. The whole thing, it was really popular then. You have to have that dog in them. We only want dogs in our wide receiver room. And so every single clip for at least 3 years was Jauan Jennings walking around barking at people because he wanted to be the dog of the Tennessee wide receiver room. And as far as Ricky Pearsall getting the rookie bump, fifth-year rookies who were in college for 5 years and didn't break out until their fourth year, and then were the second best receiver on their team during their fifth year, don't get a rookie bump whenever they've been injured during their first season. It just doesn't exist.
I think fairly so, yeah.
All right. I need to give my closing statement here.
Okay.
I think I totally won, by the way. So you said the 100-yard game stat was an arbitrary threshold. Did I hear that right?
Yes, correct. Okay. That would be an arbitrary threshold.
I think that's the most universally agreed upon threshold for a good game. I think you say 100-yard game is like, oh, that's a good game.
Do we get fantasy points for 100-yard games outside of DraftKings? Outside of DraftKings,
reason why I know it is because I played Jauan every week, and he never really was a difference maker. But
sorry, Dynasty League posted on DraftKings.com.
Is this a dynasty debate, or are we talking about my redraft rankings?
What does it say? What does it say up here above us?
Together. You guys don't even know. But no, I wanted to address this, and I want to address something you said. You said Jauan has more confirmed upside, and I just think that is so wrong. We're acting like last year was this great year. It really wasn't. Like I said, one career 100-yard game, one career game over 95 yards, if you like that as an arbitrary threshold better. But I was talking to Brett Whitefield about this, amazing film expert. I'm like, hey, who's going to play the Debo role? Who's going to play the Brandon Ayuk role? He's like, oh, dude, like Ricky Pearsall can do the Debo stuff, and he could do the Ayuk stuff. This guy is so special. I'm like, he's better than Jauan, right? Oh, he's so much more talented than Jauan. And you see these experts, I think it was Dwayne McFarland was tweeting about, once he came back from injury, Jauan Jennings' target share was top 12. And then JJ Zacharyson replied to it was, oh yeah, like incredible volume. Yeah, he had the best possible setup he was ever going to have. And now it's tougher. Now it's the Ricky Pearsall show. But yeah, week 10 on, 10th in target share, but he was 29th in fantasy points per game. That's not good. He had on a 25.1% target share, fewer fantasy points per game than Marvin Mims on a 12.8% target share. That is insane. What can Ricky Pearsall do on a target share like that? Break leagues. I do not see confirmed upside for Jauan Jennings. In fact, I see potentially the opposite of it. But where do I really stand? Yes, I think Jauan is a value, but I think Ricky Pearsall above and beyond by orders of magnitude.
I would say, what if the tiebreaker is just Brett Whitefield being more in on one than the other, seeing as how when he loves a wide receiver, I mean,
Whitefield, the film people, that's the thing though. The film people are always going to like the Pearsalls more. And I'm not saying that to knock them. I'm slightly on the Pearsall side of this debate. Like I like Pearsall a lot too. And I also really like his film. And I don't know anything about film compared to Brett Whitefield, but I like him. It's just that like to me with wide receivers, every player has like a certain percentage of their NFL utility that converts into fantasy points. And like, I don't know how you would ever apply that mathematically, but I know inherently that exists. And there are players like Wan'Dale Robinson, for instance, who like 170% of his NFL utility equates to fantasy points because he's like probably a net negative to his NFL team, but like he just gets like schemed a bunch of bullshit all the time. And I think that it is like very likely true that Pearsall is going to be the more valuable player to the San Francisco 49ers offense because he can do more things. I think that Jennings is like the type of player that film people won't like because he is more limited. But what he does well is just like really fitting for fantasy. It's kind of like the Keenan Allen thing where I can on one hand be like, I think the Chargers shouldn't have done that. But I also do think he'll like unfortunately score an annoying amount of fantasy points this year.
I just want to point out that Frank Joseph spent $5 of his hard-earned money to let Scott know that Jauan Jennings should have been an Exodia player. So
that means something.
Thanks, Frank.
That has to mean something.
That's absolutely massive. Steve, we see yours. We're absolutely going to get to yours as well, but we have a few players left, and regardless of time, I definitely wanted to get this one in because it's quite possibly my most favorite phrased question Jacob might have ever have added something in on. He has Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, and Keenan Allen. And Bracken says, Scott, why are you such a boomer? So, Jacob, you obviously disagree with some of the old heads here. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, the Kelce ranking in particular is tilting to me. The Kupp ranking was pretty tilting to me. The Keenan ranking is whatever. He's like the last player ranked on Scott's sheet, so that's fine. And then Tyreek, I think, is like a pretty fundamental disagreement. Although the only issue that I have with it is that the rest of all of the round 3 players are so woeful that, you know, my anti-Tyreek stuff is like hard to make a case for because I have to then like pick another one of these crappy round 3 wide receivers that should be ranked ahead of him. But like the Kelce, the Kupp, like what are we doing? Like still drafting these like old dudes ahead of like pretty exciting, fun young players when I think that they are pretty clearly washed. And we know that pass catchers tend to decline off an epic cliff once they become washed. Too high on all these dudes for me.
Yeah, so I didn't know I was high on Travis Kelce. He's my tight end 6, but I said do not draft Travis Kelce, and I think that's a fair spot for him just because he's had 93 receptions in 7 straight years, and Andy Reid says his usage isn't going to change at all. But like, yeah, I don't see myself like please do not draft Travis Kelce. And then Keenan Allen, my only best ball take was he was the best ball pick you could have made in drafts. I think that's true. But I have him like wide receiver 53. Chris Wecht has him like wide receiver 41. So I actually think that's low on him comparatively. It's just, I mean, for a guy who is paired back up with his BFF, he had like 13.5 targets per game 2 years ago, was arguably the best receiver on the Bears last year. He led in he led in yards per game, fantasy points per game, minus screens, versus a DJ Moore, top 12 highest paid wide receiver, Rome Odunze, top 10 pick. But yeah, don't draft Keenan Allen outside of best ball. Like that's he's not a target. So we're left with 2 players. Cooper Kupp, I actually think is legitimately really interesting. And if you look at where I have him ranked, I probably don't have him more than 3 or 4 or 5 spots ahead of ADP. He's wide receiver 51 on Underdog, so certainly not very high. But I actually think he's interesting. I think he's worthy of a conversation. Tyreek, you're just wrong on. Like I know you know how important upside is, and he's just like obviously the most glaring like upside bet. He's 5th right now in odds to lead the league in receiving yards. What is his ADP? He's wide receiver 15. I think the vibes are really good. There's literal video of him running 26 miles an hour. There's a video of him running this offseason, the 100 meter in 10.10 seconds. For perspective, Xavier Worthy, the combine record holder, his best ever in the 100 meter was 10.65. Last year, you got to go back in time. He had 12 babies in the off season. He was 15 pounds overweight the entire year. He had a broken wrist.
Is he the one pregnant with these kids?
I mean, it's just extracurricular activities. Like now we have video of him on the track working out versus
Megan Kelly.
Versus impregnating different women. He barely played in the 4th quarter last year, just a 63% snap share. He said it was conditioning issues. He was checked out. Tua got hurt week 2. Miami lost 6 of their first 8 games. But meanwhile, this year, all the vibes are excellent. And we're left with a player who I legitimately believe. What's that?
The vibes are excellent?
Yeah, I disagree that the vibes are excellent.
Vibes are so
Vibes,
much
exactly.
for Tyreek and where
the
his head's
multiple
at.
preseason injuries, Tua Tagovailoa saying, yeah, I don't know if I can forgive him for what he did last year. He's going to have to work harder. Tyreek Hill deciding to become
but he's saying all the right things.
He's Guide for running back to give his thoughts on short yardage usage and saying that Devontae Chan shouldn't play anymore. Like, what part of that is good vibes?
I mean, that's just typical Tyreek shit. But it was last year you had him 15 pounds overweight. Now you have him like breaking records on the track. He is, for all intents and purposes, saying the right things. He is spending extra time going over the playbook and whatnot. And again, 5th best odds to lead the league in receiving yards. It's arguably the best wide receiver of our generation, and you're gonna pass on that. I think he's still got it. I think round 3 is a great place to invest in someone who just did basically the impossible. If he stayed healthy, would he have had 2,000 receiving yards 2 years ago? It was like the best yards per route run of all time. And so, chasing that upside, I think is certainly fine at around 3 ADP.
This is not a gotcha because I don't know the answer to this question. What were your thoughts on Cooper Kupp in 2024 and Allen Robinson in 2022?
I hated Allen Robinson in 2022. I did have beat writers. I had him buried in my rankings the entire time. And then I had multiple beat writers saying he was going to get like 20 touchdowns. So I think I might have ended up like close to ADP, but I did spend the entire offseason trashing him. 2024 Cooper Kupp, very, very high on him. I will say again, this was my sources out of the Rams saying he looked unbelievable. But I certainly was way too high on him last year.
I will say, I will preface this by it's very possible that I have the psychological bias here in that I was very right in 2 instances of bets that I think are similar. And I'm worried that I'm pattern matching this bet to 2 successful bets that I made prior, which was 0% A-Rob that year, 0% Kupp last year. And my general rule of thumb is when you have an old, formerly elite wide receiver who shows a bunch of decline and they're still pretty expensive, you just say no, like Nancy Reagan. I will say this for Tyreek Hill, 31 years old he is currently 31 years old. And last year with Tua Tagovailoa healthy, 0.22 targets per route run, 1.88 yards per route run. I'm sorry, that's from the other site. They're probably slightly higher on fantasy points. And 12.4 half PPR points per game. That is not Tyreek Hill level production. That is mid-ass level production.
Right.
And that's excluding the Tyler Huntley, Tim Boyle bullshit games. I'm deeply concerned. You read Matt Harmon's reception perception. And to be clear, Tyreek Hill was still fine. It's not like he was a bad player, but massive drop off from where he had previously been. So I'm pretty out on theories of he was just failed last year by circumstance and he still had it. I think he just wasn't good last year. The bet is that he has to be better this year than he was last year. And maybe that's true, but I just personally think it's very unlikely. And I will say this, I made him one of my favorite picks in the round in when we did the Dynasty show. I think in Dynasty because his price is so low, or in redraft because you get the season-long ceiling edge, it's fine. Most of my aversion to him has come through Best Ball Mania, which is what I do most of my content on, because I think it's a uniquely bad idea to gamble it all for season-long ceiling in a format that doesn't reward season-long ceiling very much. But I acknowledge that he's a more cogent risk than other formats. I'm probably still not drafting him in any.
Yeah, I do think that's an important bias here is you guys are listening to a Dynasty show. Yeah, it makes sense that you're going to naturally be lower older players, higher on the rookies. I think honestly being best ball brained is even worse than being Dynasty brained in redraft. Nowadays, the rookies immediately smash, but I am seeing so many awful takes on the timeline where people are hyping up committee backs with 0 upside. And it's just a function of them having 100 best ball drafts in the books and forgetting to turn off their best ball brain when heading into a redraft. But yeah, I think fundamentally is just your level of confidence that Tyreek is washed has to be close to 98% when you're talking about a player who was easily the best and most valuable wide receiver in fantasy 2 years ago and is going wide receiver 15.
There's just a couple of notes with Tyreek that I think matter. One, he stated that the arrest to start the year stuck with him and took his head out of the season. There was, as Scott mentioned, all the Tua stuff. And let's not forget, John Hansen said this a lot last year and a little bit the year before. The offense was solved a little bit. So there's some of like, how much was the coach unable to get the players going, get his system going? The offense kind of shut down. It looked noticeably terrible. And then there's Tyreek's not like the AJ Green-esque receiver whose productivity plummets because the athleticism is dead. Every time he touched the football and was running, he's still one of the top speed guys in the league, which is always dangerous. So I don't know if we're going to get like 2K yards Tyreek Hill, but I'm more than happy to make the same kind of bet on him that I made on like Adams. But obviously it's a little more expensive. But Adams was like, as the chat said, better be a year early than a year late.
I actually think I disagree with that for redraft.
A couple years.
How did that work out for Saquon and Derrick Henry faders last year? I think it's better, in the redraft format where you have the safety net of the waiver wire to fall back on, swinging for the fences with these picks is exactly what you want to do. And you can, make up for your misses with your hits.
Yeah.
I will clarify. I'm not out on old players. I'm out on old players who've shown significant efficiency declines. James Conner will be one of my most drafted players this year. I'm not like ideologically against drafting olds. I'm ideologically against drafting olds who I think are in steep decline.
Yeah. My question is is any of that enough to explain some of that though? I think there's enough there to explain away some of the efficiency decline personally, but if you don't, I think that's fine. But
if you gave Ryan the floor here, we would get into like a long discussion about how defenses, just spammed too high coverage against the Dolphins last year because the running game wasn't working. The offensive line is still bad. So maybe we shouldn't have too much confidence that they can fix the run game, which would really open things up for Tyreek. So that's a whole other wormhole we could go down. And it's hard to argue against that as being like one of the most important variables to the Tyreek thesis.
The TLDR of that to me is just if Tyreek really hits, Devon Achane is really, really going to hit. So I'd rather bet like a ton more on Achane where I feel like it's harder to lose there.
I'm not as sure about that. I mean, the Devon Achane worked pretty well in the version of the offense that couldn't get the ball more than 3 yards downfield.
Well, the version of the offense that could average 30 expected fantasy points per game in their backfield. So it's
my thoughts are Achane wins. I think Achane wins either way. Because I'm in the middle of writing about Devon Achane literally right now. I have an article on him and McCaffrey and Genty coming out. It's supposed to be today, but I'm sidetracked by real work, so it'll probably be tomorrow. And the conclusion I came to is like the version of the Miami Dolphins offense that they probably want to be, which is Hill, Waddle, downfield, open it up for the run game. Achane smashes. The version of the offense that the Miami doesn't want to be, which is we can't block anyone and we can't throw the ball to our $60 million of wide receivers. I guess we'll just pepper Devon Achane with 120 targets instead. Also works for Devon Achane. So I think like all roads lead to Devon Achane.
So, I think we all are massive Achane lovers here, so no disagreements from me. But you did bring up Cooper Kupp, and so I want to make the case for it. I was telling Ryan, I really think like every year there's like 4 to 6 players where we all just collectively stop thinking critically about because, you just hear someone go, oh, he's washed. And it's like, oh, yeah, he's washed. Oh, he's washed. Oh, yeah, he's washed. And then you just like, he's dead in your eyes and you don't think about him. And then he moves to wide receiver 51 by ADP. And so like, here's the history on Cooper Kupp. 2021 scored the most fantasy points by any wide receiver all time. 2022, wide receiver 1 by fantasy points per game. 23, wide receiver 23 by fantasy points per game. And then last year, weeks 1 through 12, 20.1 fantasy points per game, wide receiver 2, behind only Jamar Chase. Now he's ADP, wide receiver 52. I understand that the Rams, just totally washed their hands of him. We don't want any part of this, but he's not with that team anymore. He's with the Seahawks, who gave him more guaranteed money than Stephon Diggs, more guaranteed money than Devontae Adams. And so I don't know where you're at on Devontae Adams, but again, Cooper Kupp is barely being drafted. Devontae Adams is a round 3 pick when it's like, okay, Devontae Adams sucked in the beginning of the year. Cooper Kupp sucked the last 4 games of the year. And maybe he was hurt. Maybe that was just an injury and he's still got something, but would it really be
hurt this year? He never gets hurt.
Would it really be the most surprising thing in the world if he comes out of the gates, gets 10 targets, 12 targets, of course, eventually gets hurt, but just at a wide receiver 51 ADP, your level of confidence, I think, relative to the upside that he's shown needs to be 98% that he is washed for you to just be totally out.
If he could play slot, I'd be so much more excited.
Why wouldn't
his fit in this offense.
Why would you give him that money and not?
There's not going to be any slot in this offense. They're going to play a bunch of fullbacks and tight ends.
Right. Well, it's 12 personnel, 21 personnel, which Ryan Heath will tell you is worth a 33% advantage by fantasy points per route run.
Right. But I just think I don't know how they're going to arrange their offense. I just hate how they've constructed the players to fit the offense. Is he playing X receiver for them? Is JSN playing X? It's just a weird ass offense to me. And I don't think it fits what Kupp does well. I would rather him just be doing old guy shit where he's just running choice routes out of the slot and kind of a spready offense. I will say I was very in on Adams before Matthew Stafford entered the sleep device in Interstellar while everybody else is down on the planet with the giant wave. And then when they come back, he's aged 35 years and they've aged 10 seconds. That makes me more concerned about Devontae Adams in particular, because I don't care what he says. Him and Jimmy G hate each other, and there's nothing they can possibly say to convince me otherwise. And I think that Jimmy G will actually be pretty fine at spamming Puka Nacua a bunch of 4-yard dinky bullshit. But I think Adams is gonna have a fucking miserable time if Jimmy G is their quarterback this year. So I was very into Adams. I'm getting scared.
I'm only going to say this just because this is a scheduled tweet from the Fantasy Points data account going out tomorrow morning. Devontae Adams did average 17 fantasy points per game with Jimmy G in 2023. That wasn't
okay.
That
you want
was
to talk
a thing
about
that
psychological? You want to talk about psychological effects? First of all, that is somewhat I guess it's not deceiving because you stand for Jauan Jennings, so you're consistent. But that was mostly one game against Pittsburgh. And then Jimmy G got benched before the rest of the sample balanced out. The other thing that is my psychological bias is I needed Devontae Adams to have 7 points to win a matchup in the $2,000 entry main event on the Monday night game against the Lions when Jimmy G missed him 7 million times when he was wide open and he got 4 points. And I will never emotionally or financially recover from that. And there's just nothing anybody can do about it.
Oh, man.
I just wanted to add one little thing. Yeah, I'm a big quarterback chemistry, quarterback rapport truther. And have they practiced together once ever, Stafford and Adams?
Stafford and Adams? Perhaps on Gargantua.
I don't know what that is.
No one else has watched Interstellar as much as I have. It's pretty clear. Yeah.
What a reference.
I did a paper.
I'm doing one elongated.
I knew the first reference. Didn't know the second one. Yeah.
I did a paper on Interstellar in college for extra credit in which we were analyzing how scientifically accurate it was for their estimates on the amount of time that they were losing due to relativity and gravity. Oh, and I got 100 on it. So I love the movie and I love the analogy. Thank you, Jacob.
Oh my goodness.
Today's 5 for 5 is actually just Christopher Nolan trivia. So top news. I'm kidding. It's not, but I wish it was.
But speaking of 5 for 5, that's it for the rankings debates this time. Maybe we'll have some more next time Scott hops on. But we can't get out of here without a little 5 for 5. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
45 seconds? Nah, that. This ad is over after I say fantasypoints.com.
So anyone keeping score here will realize that I've just absolutely walked away with 5 for 5 this year, but we're going to keep it going for the good of the game. I am your back-to-back 5 for 5 champion, the crash out king, Ryan Heath. Must try to keep it together in front of the boss man himself and keep his composure to not choke at the end of a 5 for 5. And Lucas Gilbert, man of the people, sometimes still barely edging out the chat, who is also sitting at 2. I'm excited because Jacob said there's a twist to 5 for 5 this week. I am full disclosure exhausted, so I do not know how much my brain will be firing on all cylinders for Jacob's trivia, but it's 5 for 5. I got to lock in. Jacob.
All right. Sorry, I was responding. Scott asked in the private chat very accurately, why do we have to wrap this episode up 2 hours early for our regular? And I'll take the blame for that. I have a summary trial application response. It's due at 9 a.m, and I have to go back to the office to write it until 2 a.m. I love podcasting with Scott so much that I didn't cancel my appearance on the show, that I was willing to go do this for 2 hours and then go back and draft legal bullshit. So, all right, here's 5 for 5 this week. There's going to be a twist. Normally on 5 for 5, the way it works, and Scott, you played it once before, right? I think we had you on for it, is we do 5 players and I do 5 clues, up to 5 clues for each player. And each is worth up to 5 points, depending on how many clues you need. This week, I will be reading 0 clues for the 5th player. And whoever gets the 5th player automatically wins. The reason why is because the 4 clues for the 5th player will be the first clue for each of the other 4 players. And I'm not going to repeat them. You have to remember them. So the first clue I give for each of the 4 players, if you put those 4 clues together, they are all clues for the 5th player. The way it's going to work is,
am I allowed to use a notepad?
The most points, no notepads. Okay. Whoever has the most points after 4 players automatically gets an uncontested free guess at the 5th player, and we go in descending order of the most points after the first 4 players. If nobody gets it, I'll start doing more clues. If someone is up by more than 5 points on anybody else, I'm going to give you 2 free guesses before anybody else. Does everybody understand the rules?
No, but we're gonna ride it out.
So it's specifically the first clue.
I'll do an example. So
okay,
for instance, let's say that the 5th player was Barney, the dinosaur. Okay, and so maybe my first player is Randy Moss, and the first clue would be this player is most famous for wearing purple. So that applies to Randy Moss, but that also applies to Barney the dinosaur. You understand?
Got it. This is
okay. So everybody has to lock in on the first clue and keep that in the back of your mind.
Chats are minimized.
If you think you know the last player ahead of time, you're not going to get any benefit from it. Where it's going in order of standings, you can't jump the gun. For the chat, the same rules are going to apply. If and when we get to the chat's turn on the 5th player, you get 3 guesses, and only each person gets to guess once. All right.
And I can't take notes. That's not allowed.
There's no note taking. You have to be locked in, Ryan.
Okay. I am typing is just for timestamps. I promise. That is all it's for.
All right.
John Atlas says this guy could have got OJ off.
All right.
Again.
Here we go. Player number 1. Okay.
Chat minimized. Yeah.
This player played college at Auburn University.
Cam Newton.
University of Auburn. That is incorrect. You want to guess an Auburn player?
Kerryon Johnson.
Incorrect. But I can say that he was my second choice. Because obviously I picked the last player first and had to work backwards.
So if I did do Javon Best last week, Kerryon Johnson was going to be the player that I was throwing in there. But I was like, I can't have 2 injured Lions running backs. No, that's too much.
All right. Anybody else want to guess, or are we going and passing? Remember, I'm not going to tell you now if the chat's already got it, so you can't.
For the swag, I'll say Ronnie Brown.
Incorrect. Both Cadillac and Ronnie have been answers to 5 for 5 before.
I'm going
Lucas?
first guess.
All right. I can confirm that chat did not get it. They guessed mostly guys that you guessed. Okay. This player was drafted 3 rounds after his college teammate at the same position in the same draft.
Oh gosh, that is
And
brutal.
Lucas gets a freebie before anyone else can guess.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm only going to give you 5 more seconds to use your freebie. Then everybody gets a chance.
It's okay. They can go.
All right, everybody. Anybody got one?
No clue.
Auburn and same draft, same position, drafted 3 rounds later.
And he's on. They went to Auburn.
They went to Auburn together. They were drafted the same year. They played the same position. The one I want is the one who was drafted later.
No idea.
All right. Anyone got anything? Otherwise, we're moving on.
I don't got it.
3, 2, 1. Chat doesn't have it either. We're going to clue number 3. Okay. This player is currently on the Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm not allowed to pull up the depth chart or anything, right?
No.
No. Did Trey Tucker go to Auburn?
He did not, and that is incorrect. And my rules are when you say a name, that counts as a guess.
That was meant as a guess, yeah.
Trey Tucker went to TCU? Do we know?
I can't remember. I don't know where Trey Tucker went, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, so
always thinking
I
he was in
phrased
Nebraska,
that
but
as a
that's 'cause I have him
question. So
confused
yeah,
with Trey Palmer. To me, they're the same person.
I phrased it as a question so chat wouldn't make fun of me for not
All
knowing,
right.
so that they were
Anybody-
aware I didn't
anybody
know.
else?
Yeah,
They're gonna make fun of you anyway.
I know.
3, 2, 1. Nothing from the chat either. Weird that you can't name someone who's currently in the Las Vegas Raiders. Maybe the reason why you can't name someone who's currently in the Las Vegas Raiders is this player has 1 career National Football League catch.
Oh.
Has one.
I'm so stuck and it's killing me. Holy cow. Oh.
Can I litigate the language of currently on the Las Vegas Raiders? Like what?
Okay, I might
is he
script
gonna
the name.
make the 53 man? Like
Is it Sammy Brown?
He's at their camp. Like
Not Sammy Brown, and it's also not Sammy Coates, who I assume you meant to
Is
guess.
it?
Thank you. Yeah, I was so stuck. Oh, thank you.
All right. Anybody?
Is it
2,
one catch?
All right. 2 points to the chat. It is Seth Williams.
Wow.
Oh,
Is he
nice.
still in the league?
Yeah. I recently learned that.
He was originally drafted by the Broncos, right?
He was.
Yep.
And that was going to be the last clue.
I would got it then.
6th, Anthony Schwartz was his other.
Wow,
CBA
right.
third.
Of course.
Yeah.
No idea. Good job,
Debbie
chat.
Darling, Seth Williams. 2 points to the chat. A shout out to Jim Houston, who got that one. Not to be confused with legendary announcer Jim Houston.
I was gonna say the EA Sports guy is in chat. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. All right. So 2
game.
points early to the chat. All right.
Damn.
This player was the first overall pick in his NFL draft.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not gonna bother.
I'm going to say
say-
Sam Bradford. Just maybe we had 2 weeks in a row with Sam Bradford sneaking in.
No.
Correct. But you've now eliminated about one of like 50 possible answers. So
There we go.
Cam Ward.
Incorrect.
Oh, that's smart. Go with that. What we know. Okay.
It's like hiding in plain
Scott,
sight.
or are you
Yeah,
guys
that
saving
seems
No,
like
I'll
something
wait.
Jacob would
I'm
do.
gonna wait.
Okay. Scott, 3, 2, 1. All right. Everybody's waiting for round 2. Chat has not got it yet either. Okay, pay attention. This is a really long clue. I apologize. In a beautiful act of symmetry, this player began his college career as a backup, but started halfway through his freshman season. He then played the entirety of his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. To finish his NFL career, he played 4 years with one team, playing the entirety of the first 3 years with that team, but only part of the last year with that team, perfectly bookending his career.
Can you read that again?
So they're not in the league anymore, is what you're saying.
Okay. This player only ever played for 3 teams from college onwards. He played in college. He played half of the first year, then all of the next 3. Then he played for one team, and then he played for another team for 4 years, and only played part of the last year, but played all of the first 3 with that third team. So his career was perfectly symmetrical.
This is Peyton Manning.
That's correct.
Whoa.
It is Peyton Manning.
Wow.
Yeah.
But how is that related to the other questions we were guessing?
That one's not the
Well,
first question. The first part of that.
I said it's the first clue.
Yeah,
I've
that's
ever-
the most Jacob. That's the most Jacob guess or
Yes.
player ever. That's Peyton Manning.
Thomas,
I'll
I
give
was
it to
waiting.
Jason Wright. He also got it in the chat.
That's the
so
Denver
the points of
Broncos
this tiebreaker
finish.
goes to Tom. But yeah, so the first 4 years, of course, the University of Tennessee. He takes over as a freshman, then plays 3, then Indianapolis forever, and then 4 years with the Broncos.
Yep,
Gets
that's
benched for
Peyton
Brock Osweiler. All right. I thought that was a fun way to do a Peyton Manning clue.
I didn't
all right,
get
we
it
got
when I
4
should have
points
got
for
it the last
Tom.
time I guessed him.
And we've got 2 for the chat. We got none for anybody else. Okay, third player. All right, this player's career ended on a particularly gruesome injury.
Joe Theismann.
That's correct for 5 points.
Wow.
I couldn't think of the name.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
Yep,
All
I couldn't
right,
think of the name.
Lucas,
I stalled on the
In the
name.
lead at 5. We've got Tom at 4. We've got the chat at 2, and we've got the Fantasy Points Bros sitting on 0 points. All right, this is the last. This is the last time I'm going to read clues. It's the 4th player, and the first clue for this player will be the last of the 4 clues for the final player. Whoever's in the lead will get the first guess. The final player. All right, this player shares a name with a character in a popular nursery rhyme.
Oh, it's John Jacob
And-
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Not an NFL player, to my knowledge.
He's not on the Jaguars?
Is it Josh Jacobs?
Not true, or not the correct answer. And
What
I should
nursery
clarify,
rhyme is that?
whenever I do shares a name with, that could mean first or last. It's not like it doesn't necessarily mean the entirety.
I don't think I know that many nursery rhymes. I'm having trouble coming up with even any possible ideas here.
All right, are Ryan and Lucas passing? I'm seeing
Yeah, I
passing.
guess.
All right. Okay. This player is perhaps most famous for an epic stiff arm on Monday Night Football.
Is it Derrick Henry?
He probably is, but that is not the answer.
Okay.
A player that's most famous for one specific stiff arm.
Marshall
I don't know,
Lynch.
man. I would need to watch football to
Right.
know this one,
5,
but I just
4.
I couldn't tell you.
You're not seeing in the
I don't-
spreadsheets, Ryan?
I only watch the
2,
spreadsheets. They don't have those.
1.
Yeah, there's no stiff arms in the spreadsheets.
And the chat has got it, which means the chat moves into first place with 6 points. It's
Wow.
Vance McDonald.
Nice.
When he did that big stiff arm on the Steelers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Old McDonald, he has a farm. E-I-E-I-O.
Wow. Wow.
So the chat
Very
is at
nice.
6. Lucas is at 5. Tom is at 4. So chat, I'm going to say that stop typing right now. You're going to get your next 3 names that I see, no more than 1 per person, okay? And you'll get to guess it. Even if they don't get it right, I'll ask you guys if you already know who the last person is. But chat, this is your moment. I'm only counting the first 3 names I see. If anybody guesses twice, that means you only get 2 guesses. So I'm going to give you guys a minute here to get in the final clue that has been revealed. So far, I'm not seeing anything from the chat.
They're usually like shotgunning out guesses. I can't believe this
Usually
is when
they
they finally
are.
go quiet. Yeah.
All right.
They're all
the chat has got
rewinding the
it.
video.
The chat's
Okay,
got
yeah.
it. The chat has won. But out of curiosity, does everybody else know the fifth player?
Is it Bo Jackson?
Jackson.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's Bo Jackson. All right.
Would not have gotten that.
Congratulations to the
Auburn.
chat.
I'm so bad at trivia.
Bo
I've
Jackson,
been sitting.
of course,
I've
first
been
overall
sitting on
pick,
that guess. I
had
sat
a
on the guess for
gruesome
so
injury,
long.
went to Auburn, and shares a name with Lil Bo Peep.
Yeah.
Played with the Chiefs.
So
It's so easy.
I purposely was not wanting to say that whenever you were talking about Auburn, because then as soon as the second one was first overall, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that it's got that one wrapped up nice.
Yeah, I was so annoyed. Like so shout out to the chat. You guys will get the Gremlin will get a little bit bigger next week. When happy to report Rich Rebar joining us next week. We got him locked in. We mixed it up at the Fantasy Football Expo. He is excited to hop on with us and try his hand at 5 for 5, like
he'll
an
be great at
absolute degenerate. He's stoked. We're stoked to have him. I'm looking back at this chat, and they literally said 5 is locked in. Like Hallen knew
They were locked
a
in
while
on
ago what number.
I thought
5
everybody
was
would get
already.
5. I think it really came down to be the first to guess. But I felt pretty confident we would be able to piece it
Dang,
together.
I was feeling so good, going into Clue 4. It's like, all right, just gotta eventually get this one and then do this nursery rhyme business. And it's like,
I thought it was. I for sure thought Josh Jacobs. Like I thought that was couldn't miss after Scott's Jingleheimer. I was like, you know what? That could be Josh Jacobs actually. Now that I think about it, but nope, we failed. So shout out to Chad. You guys finally got one.
Well, intentionally, I did try to kind of disguise it where there is another Auburn first overall pick who had a career-ending injury in Cam Newton, but not as gruesome. Yeah.
Was his ego the career-ending injury?
There also, I don't think there's no nursery rhyme for Cam Newton, but yeah.
No.
I was literally sitting there trying to figure out what nursery rhyme Cam Newton would be for about the last 2 minutes of that game. Yeah.
Before we get out of here, there was one super chat we didn't get to. We have to get to it. It's required by law. That's what Jacob has told me. So Steve 602 sent us a very generous $4.99. He asked if I draft a top tier wide receiver, top 4. Hold on. If I draft a top tier wide receiver, top 4 of first round on ESPN, Bowers, McBride, make it back to me. Do you pull the trigger there? Bucky, Kyron, Adams is also there. So basically, he wants to know if Bowers, McBride make it back after going receiver top 4, if that's an easy smash over running backs.
I probably don't personally. Ryan, I think, made a really compelling argument for why it's probably a mistake to take a tight end early. You also have Kittle going around later. I would personally take Bucky there and feel pretty good about it.
I obviously would take Brock Bowers, but I didn't put that one on the sheet because I think we've litigated the Jacob Ryan Brock Bowers debate about 18 times already. So figured we'd leave that one off today.
Yep. And I'd be on the same side. I would go Bucky here of these options.
Yeah, I'll lean with Scott and Ryan and leave Jacob on his island or podium. I'm sure you prefer a podium over an island. You get more ears that way.
Yeah. There we
go. Frank.
Jacob, I'm leaning with you. I'm going with Bowers.
Oh,
there we go.
okay.
There's my Debbie All-Star.
Dual podium. All right. You two would look cute together on the podium.
Me and Lucas drafting Brock Bowers and watching Interstellar. Sounds like a great night.
Honestly, that might be what I do tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Draft Brock Bowers and watch Interstellar. All right. And Frank drops a 5 here. Last question of the day. We love all you guys. Amazing show. Thanks, guys. Dynasty question. 12 teams. Superflex start 10. Playing #normal. We love it. Contending, he said. Do you trade away Henderson and Bigby for Barkley and Aaron Jones? Jacob, could you do it?
No, I couldn't do that. I'm not trading away TreVeyon Henderson.
Not for nothing. Not for nothing.
Do you see that kick return, bro?
Where you at?
I think I feel like I should say yes, you should do it, but I was at Gillette when that kick return happened, and it was fucking electric.
Talking about psychological bias.
Yeah, there's the psychological bias right there. I'll admit up front. But yeah, I would probably be. Yeah, I'd keep Henderson.
So I do think that we're about to start to see a lot of the people who have been closeted. Genty's not RB1 in this class. Like, truthers starting to come out every single time Henderson shows up on your screens, and it's going to be very, very annoying at some point in time. Not saying Andy Starr is one of these people, but
Yes,
I did see another one. He's been a TreVeyon Henderson fan since Henderson stepped foot at Ohio State, and not saying that this is his own college production confirmation things as a Devy analyst, but
Yes, it is.
it kind of is. I still think Genty's one here, but yeah, I would take Henderson.
Well, I would trade TreVeyon Henderson for Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But bro, did you see that
Devy.
kick return?
Devy on Devy violence from Lucas.
Oh, where do you stand on this?
Love Andy.
Scott,
Andy's
please tell him the right answer and say to take Saquon, because if you don't, I feel like I'm gonna have to, and it's gonna.
No, dude, he's gonna score a special teams touchdown every single week. I do think now is actually probably a good time to sell high on TreVeyon Henderson. I think so many people think he's just gonna immediately.
We didn't get him into the show sheet, and I'm so mad. Well, we did get him in the show sheet. We didn't get to him in the show. I'm glad we are now.
Yeah, so people think he's going to immediately cuck and supplant Ramondre Stevenson, and he's going to lead the backfield in touches. I don't think that's right. I think I think we have a stubborn coach with 6 Super Bowl rings who has this vision in mind for the backfield, for better, for worse, where he wants this early down workhorse and he wants this scat back plus. I think we are going to see TreVeyon Henderson in a James White type role. So I don't think the bet on Henderson is, if people are saying he's going to lead the backfield in touches, I think that's a mistake. He is going to lead the backfield in fantasy points. To me, it's like you're betting on rookie season Jahmyr Gibbs, where he's just this hyper efficient freak. And this is a player I want on my teams for sure. But I also think he's also probably being a little overvalued. But I wouldn't make this trade just because, more so philosophically, I don't like to, make bets where I'm clearly, focused just on this year, sacrificing the future. I don't typically do that. But if anyone thinks there's any sort of ballpark where TreVeyon Henderson plus a round 2 is close to Ashton Genty, I would absolutely, do anything I can to try and get Ashton Genty from someone.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, it's a special teams touchdown we're freaking out over. That's okay, not.
So I'm being facetious. The only reason I can't disagree with what you. Well, I disagree with half of what you said. The part where you said I don't think he's going to lead the backfield in touches this season, I disagree with that. The part where you said he's not going to immediately dust Ramondre Stevenson, I agree with that. I don't think it's going to be immediately as in week 1, week 2, week 3. But I think that the part about the preseason game that actually made me raise Henderson in my ranks was not the kick return touchdown. That just confirmed what I feel like I already knew, which is that he rules and he does cool stuff like that. The most important part for me was I was fully prepared for the Patriots to go full preseason boomer and it to be Henderson or Ramondre gets the entire first drive and then Gibson gets the entire second drive. And TreVeyon Henderson's playing in the third quarter and everybody's losing their minds on Twitter. That was what I thought was going to happen. Instead, what happened is they played even snaps. And I get that Ramondre had, more carries, but Henderson had 3 catches. They both played evenly with the first team. And that to me is better than how we started with rookie season Gibbs. Gibbs played 24% of the snaps in his first NFL game, and it was very frustrating. If we can start in that 50-50 snap share with Henderson, and if that's the case, I would project it to be, maybe 65-35 week 1 carries for Stevenson and 80-20 targets for Henderson. I'm good with that because as long as he's getting an early foothold as a runner where he just shows that he is demonstrably better than Ramondre Stevenson in every conceivable way, then I think we're going to get to that 50-50 rushing, 65-35 rushing pretty fast. I think that a lot of the Josh McDaniels stuff is like, you look at the backs that he had for a lot of those years with the Patriots, and he just clearly used them correctly. He often had like a 230-pound grinder, much like Ramondre Stevenson, and like a pure scat back. Like no coach that should be doing anything in the NFL should be using James White or Kevin Falk or Danny Woodhead or any of these guys as a workhorse. That would be a nonsensical thing to do. They've been different archetypes than what TreVeyon Henderson is, but like we have seen McDaniels use Steven Jackson as a pure workhorse. We've seen him use Josh Jacobs as a pure workhorse. I think that Henderson is like not obviously as like large of a person as those guys, but he's just an infinitely better rushing prospect than like a James White or a Kevin Falk. So I think that McDaniels is going to realize that, and he's going to have a role for Stevenson, but that like it's going to look towards the back half of the season like Henderson's getting slightly more carries and all of like the high value stuff. Because the other thing with Stevenson, people forget, he's big and he's fat. He actually sucks ass at the goal line. And I'm not talking about average separation score. He's like so overly patient is like his running style, and he has no acceleration. And when he does best is like kind of plod his way around a la Le'Veon Bell, find a hole and like kind of waddle through it. And he's hard to tackle. But at the goal line, when you just need burst and get through a hole, he's so indecisive. And I just think that that's going to be a problem. And Henderson's actually, I think, a much better goal line back.
Yeah, I again, like the big thing is he is really good, really exciting, all that stuff. Evan Lazar, the Patriots beat writer for Patriots.com, I think the team beats tend to be the most well-connected. He was saying, like, even if Ramondre is not the guy, it's going to be Antonio Gibson sliding into that role. So when you are talking about, potentially, a round 2 plus TreVeyon Henderson for an Ashton Jeanty, I think that matters.
No
I think this is
about that. That is like the most straw of straw men that I've ever seen.
Fair enough. But this is like ultimately probably going to be a committee back, and that is going to really cap his upside, at least in year 1. That's kind of what I think. But
it's just again, like, what kind of committee are we looking at? Is how I think matters a lot. Because like, is it a committee as in what you said? Yeah, I mean I'll sign for that. Like that was 16.7 points per game. That sounds great.
Yeah, but that's also like the best running back in football, arguably.
I think Henderson's going to be one of the best 5 running backs in football.
You think he is?
I think I don't know if he is literally today, but I think by the end of this season, we will view him as one of the best 5 running backs in football.
Where did you have him in your pre-draft rankings?
RB2.
Nice. Okay. I was a little bit lower.
Well, I should be fair. I'll be fair about that. I had him as RB3 in my pre-draft dynasty rankings because I felt like Hampton was going to get drafted higher as more of a conventional fantasy back. I had him as RB2 in my if I were a general manager of an NFL team rankings.
Where do you have Hampton right now?
So Hampton is and was my RB2 for dynasty and fantasy in the class. Henderson was my RB2 for real life. I have Hampton right now as like in what capacity among rookies or okay, yeah.
I respect that take. Yeah. I was lower on him. Brett was much lower on him. He said TreVeyon Henderson's a wussy. He said he's DeAndre Swift 2.0. I was much higher on him than that.
I think that's crazy. I think I can see part of it. I don't think Henderson loves contact, and he shares that.
That's like a deal breaker for Brett and a lot of football bros.
So I'll give him that. I think Swift is like one of the most blind running backs ever, and I think Henderson's vision is in a completely different tier than Swift's. I think that's a big
film bros debated that TreVeyon Henderson, because I thought his film was elite, but a lot of film bros did not feel the same way.
Yeah, and some really do. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. Like there's definitely some film people I really like my guy Zoltan loved him, had him as RB2 in the class too. I loved him on film. I think I'll give the contact part. Like I don't think he is that. I don't think he's like a between the tackles grind. Like I think the ideal role for Henderson is like 180 to 200 carries and like 80 targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would be. I think I'm with you where it's like you said top 5 running back. I wouldn't go that far, but like just based on everything we have in college, this is going to be a player who's probably top 7 in fantasy points over expectation. Like just absolutely smashing his XFP, and it's also like how we're hearing they plan on using him, where he's getting deep targets. Like he might lead the team in deep targets, which is like so insane for a running back.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't want to make it seem like I'm anti TreVeyon Henderson, but just make sure that, after a we've seen like Kyle Pitts skyrocket up rounds from a nice preseason. So just to know what you're looking at this is probably a committee backfield, but a very valuable running back asset to own as early as year 1, and maybe upside for more because Ramondre and Gibson are inferior.
Antonio Gibson.
The last thing I'll say on Henderson is just, I know the receiving profile on the stat sheet is not as impressive as like a Gibbs, for instance. It's one of the few examples where the wide receiver rooms that Henderson played in Ohio State are like not even just good for college, but are like so many tiers better than the current wide receiver room he's playing with for the New England Patriots that like, yeah, if I was Ohio State, am I checking down to the running back off him when I can throw to Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Cornell Tate, JSN, get like all the different dudes that he played with? Like, no, probably not. But anytime you watched him in the receiving game, I thought he looked excellent, and everything he's been getting in camp on his receiving is like, it couldn't be more bullish. So you got to admit, like beyond just the kick return looked insane, but also like that run that he had, they ran the exact same toss with Will Campbell pulling twice. They ran it with Stevenson and they ran it with Henderson. And it was like, if you just did the frame by frame of Stevenson's fat ass ambling out to the boundary and then Henderson like shooting through it like he was teleported, it was pretty striking to me.
Well, I just want to point out that once again, Odin X13 by 56 is definitely going to comment again about being efficient on the video time. So shout out to the last super chat that got an extra 25 minutes, but Jacob was like, we have to get out of here at a very specific time.
Classic
but
me.
I just need to. I'm sorry. I just need to.
I'm like, actually, I want to keep talking about TreVeyon Henderson.
Really quick. I just need to let everybody on the show know that while Jacob was talking there about how amazing TreVeyon Henderson is, Scott just went on our document and commented James White 2.0 on his name.
I'm just trolling.
Hey,
He is silently trolling only me during this conversation.
James White was so good that I traded him to Tom Tipple straight up for Antonio Brown in redraft midseason.
That's the last year I ever played redraft.
I sponsor the James White PFR page, or actually not even me, Dude Fantasy Bro, which was my original Twitter handle, sponsor. I was a huge James White truther, and then I turned on him. I wrote Upside Wins Championships because of how much I hated James White, because people here's crazy lore. I bet on James White to win Super Bowl MVP in that Falcons game.
And you were robbed.
The Falcons Super Bowl.
You were robbed.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel you because I had Damian Williams in that other year that he was robbed against the 49ers. Just when will big NFL value running backs the way we do?
Unbelievable. Buck would be happy that Jacob was talking about fat ass running backs today. And speaking of which, Buck and I will be back. That market report will come out Friday. We could make it work last week with the scheduling and time off and et cetera, but we are back this week. Rich Rebar next week here. Scott, there might be somebody out there that know you just dropped probably your biggest piece of the year, but you dropped Exodia finally up, ready to go. That's paywalled. You can get the link to plans in the description. Not going to want to miss it. Scott also painstakingly going through his rankings. Giant rankings update will be out this week over at Fantasy Points. You can get a ton more over in the Discord, which, by the way, that link also in the description. Dynasty portion of the Discord for now, free. Get in while you can. You do need a free account. And of course, leave a comment. Comments help us way more than you guys know. And you might have the chance to have it highlighted next week on the comment review, which has become a staple of the program. You guys love it. When we don't do it, you get mad. We now do it every week. That's just the way it is. Big shout out to Scott taking his time, always on a late night. Shout out to Jacob for lying to himself, telling himself he was going to get out of here early. That was never going to happen. Shout out for Lucas, finally just leaning into the Devi allegations, and shout out for Ryan. He actually guessed more this week in 5 for 5 than any other week, even if he didn't get a hit. You took
is that a real stat? Have you been tracking that?
Yeah, you guessed more and didn't get any than previously, where you usually get it in you usually get question 1 or 2 and then not another one, and you just choose not to guess later. You actually took more swings and made less contact, so less efficient at the plate this week, but you got your swings up there, kid. You weren't taking walks, and we love that this week.
Can I are we gonna do plugs all around? I want
yes.
Plug Brian and Scott stuff. I just want to say preseason Hitchhiker's Guide to Running Back is dropping. We got the first one out. It was all about who should be the RB1 overall if you had one redraft league. I read Scott's very conflicted back and forth between Bijan and Gibbs. I was equally conflicted. I came out slightly on the other end, but probably with a gap in confidence level of 52-48 one, 52-48 the other. The one on Achane, McCaffrey, and Genty, because I was supposed to talk about all 6 in one article. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I tend to be long-winded. So that didn't happen. So I had to split it. But I was accountable. I didn't act like it was going to be part 1 and part 2. I wanted to hold myself accountable like a champion. So I called the first one part 1. And then part 1, part 2 is going to be dropping tomorrow.
Part 1, part 2. I love it. There's always something with this group. I will add, obviously, Think About Thinking will be in the description as well. You can click on that, head over there, get everything you need from there. There's so much content that comes from this show specifically. It's almost impossible to get to it all, but you should. Every single week and every single chance you get. With that being said, again, shout out to Scott. Shout out for everyone making this work, whether it was scheduling, whether it was traveling, whether it was just an insane amount of work. This show comes together every single week, and I wouldn't trade it for a thing. Not one. Maybe a Blue Jays World Series, but, Leaf Stanley Cup. Maybe.
Touch them all,
Maybe. Exactly. You never hit a bigger one in your life. That being said, shout out to you guys. We'll be here next week. Not going to want to miss it. Remember to check in on your loved ones. Even if you're not sure that they need it, remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose it. Your best days are always spent tilting about days of our lives. Good night, everybody.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.